the first thing that happens is I listen to them in horror and say, oh my God, what have I done? Just the insecure, the fearful part of me, because now they're out there and they're not ephemeral, um, so I get a little bit, like, what have I done? But then I say, well, wait a minute, these are interesting. And I feel like each one does, see, how do I say this? I wanted each play to sort of, the story to bubble up from the location. And I didn't just tack these locations on. Oh, I'm going to set this here and set this here. They all very much come from the location. The Grim Sleeper, if I set them somewhere else in an office or something, I think the writing would be different. And so I am very happy is that they seem to paint, these places, and I can envision them when they're talking. And I'm very excited by that. And I'm also just amazed at the quality of the actors and how much they're bringing these characters to life. And the music, each play is different. So it's not the same musicians, the same actors. So each one, even though it's my writing and, my neuroses and, all that mixed in, each play is kind of its own thing, because the musicians are different and the setting is different. And so that means the story is going to be different if it's in Beverly Hills or it's in an abandoned bus station. And so I'm just really happy that it's kind of bringing these places to life like a haunting, because I do love abandoned buildings and I do love ruins, and that feeling of when you're wandering around one, it does feel haunted, and you can get a glimmer of history and, things that have happened there. And the places kind of talk to you. And I've always loved that. And so I do think that I've managed to do that. Hi, everybody. My name is Sharon Yablon. I'm the playwright director who created A Garden of Terrible Blooms podcast of radio theater, short plays of the weird and surreal set in different parts of Los Angeles. If you want to learn more about us, please tune into this conversation of stage explorations, where I had some wonderful questions. I got to talk about my inspiration and how I create the plays and how I found the people I've worked with. And you can also find us, you can download the podcast from podcast forums or listen to the plays directly on our website at www.terribleblooms.net. But the interview I did with Stage Explorations is really a great way to kind of see what I'm all about and how I approach writing and why I'm doing this. So thank you. Probably, the themes that have attracted me all these years, how a place can have a personality and impact a story, time, how we're living in the present, but we have memories and dreams at night, and how we sort of reconcile all those things. And probably, at the top of that list is, loneliness and trying to connect to people and how challenging that can be. And definitely as we get older. And I think my characters, what they all have in common is, wanting to be seen and heard, for all their eccentricities, and wanting to connect. And that's always sort of been something that I've been writing about. Now, all these plays, except there's one upcoming that's fresh and new, but these were all adapted from short plays I'd done over the years. And so the first one I did is The Last Transmission. And that was part of an evening of LA true crime that we used to do in a bar, where we would just be loosely influenced by crime history or, crime in Los Angeles and write a play. And that's what we did. So this play wasn't about any crime in particular, but it was about, police helicopter pilot. And it just felt really rich to me, that the strange thing of, being up there and you're over this huge sprawl, and in a way looking at a view at a sprawl, there's all this hope of, there's all these possibilities of what can happen, all these wonderful things for me in the city, but there's also something kind of alienating, because there's people you don't know, and it's so vast. And so I was just able to really connect to him up there and his thoughts. And he was starting to have this guilt about all the crime he had seen below, because he's the one that's saying, oh, the guy went this way, follow him down the alley and you can, that's where you can find him. And he's up there all alone and, alienated. And so I don't know. And plus I live near Hollywood, so there's a lot of police helicopters over here. So that's how I wrote that one. And the second one was The Grim Sleeper. And that play, each play kind of is a piece of my heart, that means something to me. So The Grim Sleeper, Los Angeles has a very full serial killer history. There's a lot of serial killers here. And I grew up in the 70s when there seemed to be kind of one after the other. And The Grim Sleeper was kind of before me. And then, he took a break for a long time and I kind of forgot about him. And I just had all this guilt about forgetting about the killings and the victims. And I wanted to explore that. And so I didn't really want to do anything, I'm not interested in doing, documentary kind of plays, but I did want to look up the names of the victims. And I looked them up and, I said those names out loud. And the youngest one, Princess Cheyenne, is a character in the play. And I think she was only 16. And I just imagined, this ghost of her in an alley downtown. And the play is also about, it's an interaction between her and a homeless guy. And she's a ghost and knows it. And he was killed and is a ghost and doesn't know it. And so she sort of kind of helps him. But both of those things, both of those plights, unsung victims of murders and the homeless that get killed that we don't even think about, I was just very emotionally drawn to that. And again, the settings are a big part of what I do. So it's funny, I can't really write unless I feel a pull with the setting. So the alley, was just very interesting to me. Growing up in cities, I used to go to clubs and, you'd look down alleys and, who's down there? There's always something ominous and mysterious. And so an alley was just kind of perfect for me for that one. Mrs. Huberty is set in San Diego, and that was another murder. It was a mass murder. And James Huberty was the McDonald's mass murder. And so this is about the wife of the murderer. And I just was thinking one day, well, what about these women who are married to these men? Not the women that write to prisoners in jail who want to marry killers, but she actually was married to him and fell in love with him. And, did she know what was happening and, what's happened to her? And so that's where that came from. And then that play takes place with a person who's really interested in true crime. And he's kind of obsessed with finding more, about her. And so that's where that takes place. And then, of course, it goes into a surreal play. So each play sort of goes into that realm. So it starts out kind of naturalistic and then it ends in a strange way. So A Night with Gig Young is another play that was really important to me. It's my Twilight Zone is my favorite show. And if I have to pick a favorite episode, it would be Walking Distance. And it's a beautiful episode about a man, an executive who works in a big city and he's kind of lost. And, he finds himself back in his hometown and, missing the simpler things in life. And he meets a younger version of himself. And I've seen it many times. And I was watching it recently and I just thought, well, who is this actor that plays the main guy? I just didn't know who it was. And I looked him up and, oh, shoot, that's Gig Young. He was in To Shoot Horses, Don't They? And I didn't realize it was Gig Young because I don't think I'd seen him really young. And so at the time, I was still involved with LA True Crime, where we were writing plays loosely inspired by crimes. And I looked him up, and the first thing I saw was, Gig Young kills his wife and himself. And I was shocked. I had never heard that. And it's just so not what I expected to have happened to him. And yet, it's one of those Hollywood stories where you say, well, not surprised, because it's Hollywood and, the pressures of that. And, I was so shocked and, of course, appalled by what he did, because he killed, his wife. And, he was such a mixed bag and kind of a tragic figure. I just really wanted to, kind of explore him. So that was that one. And let's see. So 1:58 a.m. that takes place in a bar in Hollywood, and it's about two middle-aged singles who, lonely. It's the end of the night. The bar is about to close, and the guy is picking up on the girl. And that play, I was able to connect to that emotionally, because it's about older people, and I'm not single myself, but LA, well, I mean, maybe this is true all over the world, but I'll just say LA because I live here. It's a strange place to grow older in. And certainly for women, in their 40s and 50s and, trying to meet somebody, it's really hard. And, there's so many young, beautiful people here, and it's a strange place to be middle-aged. So that's kind of what that piece is about. And again, that play goes off, in a strange, very strange way. Nothing good happens after midnight. So this play, I love site-specific work. And this play I had done years ago with my neighbor Thomas. It was an evening called 24 Hours on Sunset, where I wrote different plays that took place in different parts of Sunset Boulevard. And this play was in Echo Park off Sunset. And it was designed to be a walk for a small group of people, where you follow the actors and, listen, and they take you on this walk and talk about stuff. And so I adapted that. And the characters, and a lot of the plays have this, talk about things that are no longer here in LA, and how strange it is, especially as a native, to grow up and see things you love, just continue to be developed. And, the history of that. And even beyond that, there are things I've seen in movies like Schwab's Pharmacy and stuff that I never saw in person, but I feel like I've been there because of the movies. And he kind of talks about that. And so there's a lot of LA history in there. But the backdrop to that one is the Hillside Stranglers. So they take this walk, and it's during the time where these murders are happening, and they come upon a body, and then it goes off into strange place. A German Christmas. Well, I love the holidays. So I wrote this play, and I'm trying to think of the inspiration. I think, again, this is about an older woman whose husband left her, and she finds herself alone on the holidays, and she meets a young German man who is very attractive, and he's come here, with big dreams, and he finds himself being taken advantage of. He doesn't know what to do, so he sleeps around to make money. It's not, what he ever intended to do. And they sort of have this evening together where they connect. So that's a good example of a play that has unlikely connections between people, which I also really like. No Casanova. So that takes place in Beverly Hills. That was done a couple times with a wonderful actor that we worked on this play a few times. His name's Ryan Catrona. All the actors, I just want to say, in these plays are just fantastic, underappreciated. I so wish, they were working more, because they're so incredible. And I'm so lucky to be able to work with them. So it's a long monologue about a rich guy on an estate whose girlfriend has left him, and he can't sleep, and he's just has these weird kind of visions, and he has a houseman who may or may not be there, and it's kind of a nightmarish play. And we did it in a bar, and we got permission to do it at an estate in Pasadena, with some piano music improvising during the monologue. So there's music throughout that piece. And in the radio play, there's a soundscape and music throughout also. So that was fun. And, yeah, so Ryan and I have a history of working together, and it's always fun to, to go back to that ice machine. And that one I did on stage with a wonderful actor and dear friend who passed away. You might know who he is, Robert Buddy Staccato. Also a very good friend, and he had done this play, and so I knew that I wanted to do it. And Mike Wiles played his part, and he's just a wonderful actor. And that play, the desert, there's so much to sort of, the desert just represents so much. There's drifters there. There's people running away from LA. You run away to the desert because you're on the lam, or you're running to something or from something. And it's a place where people go to, take hallucinogens and expand their mind. And, there's so much to write about. And so that was a pretty easy one to feel connected to. And I wish I had it here. The spark for writing that play was a small drawing that somebody did that I cut out from a newspaper. And it was a guy walking to an ice machine, and it looked like a motel. And there was a light coming from the ice machine that looked like it was kind of otherworldly. And I've always kind of loved it. And so that really was the spark for that play. And that one is about a guy who's kind of lost, and he's not sure what's happening, and he meets a young boy who's actually a younger version of himself at this old abandoned motel. That's another thing you find in the desert a lot is, remnants of Route 66 and all these beautiful crumbling motels, and you can project and imagine the history that took place there. And so they kind of have this scene together. Around and Around was one of the radio plays I did years and years ago that I was able to include here. And that takes place in an abandoned bus station. Years ago, there was an old bus tunnel that was near where Bob Baker Marionettes used to be under the freeway. And it was just open for anybody to wander through, which is actually kind of dangerous. But sorry, I realized the light on me is kind of funky. But so you were just able to wander through there, and it was about a mile or 2 miles long, and I walked in with some friends, and it was pitch black, and it was really scary and interesting, and that tunnel experience always stayed with me. And I'm also, there's something about bus stations and places of transience and that I find really intriguing. You step out of your life and you're waiting to get on a bus, or you're traveling, and something can happen. And there's something about buses, taking a bus trip and, being trapped with these people and sitting next to someone, and the intimacy of that and the conversations you overhear. And there's just so much to be inspired by with buses with that one. And that one we did live also years ago. And then I think that's it. So the last one I did was Dear Marie, and that takes place in Santa Monica Beach. And of course, I'm from here, so I love the beach. I don't go as much as I would like to because of traffic, and the parking's expensive. But I especially love the beach in winter, and I really love the beach after a storm. There used to be an old chart house kind of right on the sand, and you could sit by the window after a storm, and the waves would get really big. And it's not Maine or Vermont, but it's our version of wild coast. And so I wanted to write a winter beach story, and it was set in Valentine's Day, and about people that have these people from their past who are haunting them, who they just can't kind of shake. And I was able again to just plug right into the feeling of the beach at winter, where there's hardly anybody there except these two people. And that's where that one came from. So those are the plays that are up now. I know a lot of musicians, and I knew that I wanted music, and I didn't just want to, offer someone to work on these with just a little bit of potential, do some footsteps and a teeny bit of sound at the beginning, and that's it. I wanted, I wanted to partly to showcase the wonderful musicians that I know, and have this also be a place that can be a place for them to experiment. So, for example, with 1:58 a.m. and No Casanova, those are two plays that have a constant soundscape. Um, so I guess it was just a place for, for the musicians to be able to try something. And, if it didn't work, that would be okay too. So in a lot of ways, these are kind of experimental, and that was attractive for them. People who aren't from here, maybe they'll get a little window into what it's like to live here. Los Angeles is a mysterious and strange place. Over the years, people have said to me, why haven't you moved to New York? You want to be a playwright, And I love New York, but I just can't seem to leave LA because I'm so inspired by it. And, if you see David Lynch movies that are set here, he just captures that perfectly, that mystery and wonder and underlying sinister quality of Los Angeles. And I'm just really attracted to that. So if you don't live here, it'll be something new. If you do live here, you'll say, oh yeah, I can see that. And I think, I don't know, I mean, it's for people that like stories, and the idea that someone's whispering in your ear. I mean, there's such an intimate quality with any radio play, because the actor's right there in your ear. And it's I really enjoy it as a way to listen to stories. And I just hope that, and my characters, they do say some strange things and some dark things, and some perverted things and all kinds of things. And it just seems like, wow, it's going right into the listener's ear. That's great. I think people should be listening. I mean, there's so much competition, so they can listen to everything in addition to mine. But again, I'm a Los Angeles native, and I'm proud of my city and its murder history, and Hollywood and all the strangeness here. As annoying as it can be, it's also wondrous. And I'm a proud native. I don't know. That's one reason. I think that they're unique. It doesn't mean that it's a good podcast, but it's certainly unique in that these pieces are surreal. I think a lot of radio play podcasts, they're straight plays, they're naturalistic, which, don't get me wrong, I love naturalism also. But I think these, I haven't listened to many, but what I'm doing is a little different, because these are surreal. They're either a mix of naturalism and surreal, or they're even more surreal. And I think that's unique. And I think the degree of music is unique, and just sharing my love for, like we've been talking about, music as a facet of storytelling and not just transitional. Certainly films do it all the time. In fact, if you watch a TV show, procedural or 1 hour drama, it almost always ends with the last 2 minutes. They'll do a song and they'll show you the characters doing stuff, without speaking. So it's not a new idea that, I've created. But I always seem to have more music, and these aren't musicals, but then other plays that are produced. And I think that's different. Whether or not it's worth listening to or people are interested in that, I can't say, but those are, and I guess also the plays sort of veer into the dark side of Los Angeles without being bleak. I didn't want the plays to be just, a slow boat to hell. But it is it's kind of the B side or the dark side. People come here from all over the world and they want to see celebrities and, do cool things and stuff. But, there's dark things that are interesting too. And I don't know. And that's always my interest when I visit somewhere. I want to go to the cemeteries. I want to learn about, some interesting things about the city. So it's like I was saying, it's sort of an alternate dreamlike audio tour of Los Angeles. I try to drop a play every month and a half. I don't want these to be binged. I kind of like the idea of the episode, the play being dropped and it, you know, sitting there for a while so someone could listen to it again. That's one of the comments that I've gotten a lot from people is that they sort of defy categorization and they should be listened to again. And, you know, you pick up nuances. And so I like that they just, each one just kind of sits there for a good month or month and a half. And plus, you know, I kind of need that time to do the work because it's a lot of work, but it's fun. It's been, you know, really, really challenging and really fun. You know, when Thomas first told me he was going to be too busy, I just went, oh my God, what am I going to do? And then I thought, well, I'll find a way. I'll find a way. And so far, I found a way to do these, and I'm really happy. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. I am the playwright, director, and creator of A Garden of Terrible Blooms podcast. We have a website where you can listen to the plays for free. It's www.terribleblooms.net. We also have some wonderful photographs and paintings, original art on the site. And of course, if you follow podcasts, you can download us from any podcast forums. If you're interested or intrigued or even hate Los Angeles, you might enjoy this podcast. If you're attracted to the dark side or, you know, ghost stories or fairy tales set in urban environments, you might enjoy this podcast. The plays are short. They're 15, sometimes 20 minutes with a lot of original music from local musicians and, of course, local talent, local actors. And it was made with love, and I hope you enjoy it.